Hi, my name is Jay Sugarman, and I want to welcome you to Museum Open House. This ongoing series features and highlights many of the outstanding museums and other cultural organizations. The main purpose of most programs is to inform viewers about current and upcoming exhibits, various programs, resources, and other opportunities that are available for the general public. Today, via Zoom, we're fortunate to have as our guest Fredie Kay. Fredie is the founder, and she now serves as the president of the Massachusetts Women's History Center, a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization dedicated to amplifying the history of women in Massachusetts. During today's first of two programs, we'll be learning why and how the organization came about and how it's grown, developed, and operates today. Let's start by meeting Fredie and then hearing all about the Massachusetts Women's History Center. Welcome, Fredie. So delighted you're able to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jay, for inviting me. It's a pleasure and an honor.
I know there's a lot we want to cover today, but before we jump right in, I think it would be of interest if you'd briefly share a little bit about your background, maybe professional interest, and how that led you to the start of the center.
Thank you so much. Well, I have a few years behind me, but I'll try to make this brief. And I think I need to start a little bit and just mention that when I was in college, I took a course on the psychology and sociology of women. And that was back in the 70s, and it definitely opened my eyes to the world of feminism. And frankly, I felt like it was so obvious that men and women should be treated equally that I did not decide to devote my career to it. I went off to have my career thinking, well, the world is figuring this out. That's not going to be a problem. So my world became public policy and law. I was fortunate to work at the Conference of Mayors in Washington and then to come to Boston, where Michael Dukakis was my advisor at the Kennedy School. And after the Kennedy School, I decided, okay, now's a good time to go to law school. So I had been trying to decide between the two and did the Kennedy School first, and then I went to law school. And then had the great fortune to come back to Boston. I had gone to Georgetown Law in DC, came back to Boston to join Goodwin Procter, where I practiced for a few years until I went on the campaign trail for Michael Dukakis in the presidential campaign. So fast forward, I ended up serving as his deputy legal counsel, which was a great honor in the governor's legal office. And I continued to serve. Governor Bill Weld asked me to stay, and I was honored to do so. So I stayed in that office until he and his office appointed me to run the State Office of Dispute Resolution, where we practiced alternative dispute resolution. So I've been going on and on with my career. Then I took a pause, and in 2010, then Attorney General Martha Coakley gave me a call. We had met at Goodwin Procter years ago and asked, Freddie, would I like to do anything for the 90th anniversary of women obtaining the vote?
Mm.
Yes, she did not realize that I had had this past
Mm.
interest, but also along the way in 2004, I had seen the movie Iron Jawed Angels. And there's another story there. And I was committed when I saw that movie. I felt like the movie It's a Wonderful Life, it's a movie that everybody should see. And so it became a great opportunity. So for the 90th anniversary of women obtaining the vote, I worked with Martha. We created a committee, invited people to come together to have this great event at the Institute for Contemporary Art, the ICA. Barbara Lee was very helpful as well and participated. And we had over 300 people at
Mm.
the ICA for this great evening. And I'm trying to think. So that became the start, and it just kept going from there. And initially, I said, "Well, I don't think we should be a nonprofit. There are so many And of course, that's what we ended up doing was becoming a nonprofit. And so for 14 years, we did work commemorating the role of women in the suffrage movement and how they made that happen. Women worked for the vote for decades upon decades, 72 plus years. And that's what we did for the past 14 years. I could pause to flip over to our website and show a couple of links if that would be
Yeah,
good.
that would be very helpful. Thank you.
I would be happy to do that. So I'll just share my screen here. People can see this is our website, and we're going to talk in a minute, I think, about how did we become the Massachusetts Women's History Center. As I'm doing,
Yes.
it was because we had been Suffrage 100 MA, and then we decided to Iron Jawed. So the listeners, the viewers can see how you can search this website. And there's the Iron Jawed Angel screening, November 10, 2010. And you can see these wonderful pictures. There's Barbara Lee, Attorney General Coakley, myself about this movie. And I have to say,
Mm.
for any folks who have not seen this movie, I highly recommend it. It's called Iron Jawed Angels. My curse is under it now. It was made by HBO. It never made it to the big screen.
Mm.
Starring Hilary Swank as a
Sure.
woman named Alice Paul. And if people don't know about Alice Paul, look her up, go see this movie. Most libraries and high schools have a DVD copy. For those with no more DVDs, I think you can stream it, but you have to look for it, and HBO does have it. So during those 14 years, which were very important for us, we were known often as Suffrage 100 Massachusetts, and we showed Iron Jawed Angels. The other thing we did was that we started commemorating, it's called Women's Equality Day. And let me try to share my screen on that if I can, 1 second. There we go. Women's Equality Day, which I had never heard of. Many people have not, I'm
Mm.
sure. A woman named Bella Abzug, who many of
Sure.
you may remember, US Congresswoman from New York. She, in the 70s, recognized that the country, our country, had not commemorated the day on which the 19th Amendment was added to the Constitution. And
Mm.
so she declared through Congress and had it adopted Women's Equality Day, which is August 26th. Every year is the date. And this was our first Women's Equality Day event at the Swan Boats.
Mm.
You can see us wearing our Votes for Women sashes. Mayor
Yeah.
Menino is there. And I do have a story to tell.
Sure.
Because it turns out that when the Swan Boats were created, there's a feminist story. Who knew? Mayor Menino wanted to honor the Swan Boats because it's a private organization. It's not a state-run or a city-run organization. It's a private organization. And as you know, it's iconic for Boston. So he wanted to honor them. And in that process, we all learned the history. And guess what? There's a feminist aspect to
Huh.
swan boats. Who knew? Richard Paget started the swan boats in the late 1880s. With his idea, he got a license, he built a boat, built swans with the paddle wheels behind it that you couldn't see, smaller than today's boat. Launched his boat, gave rides for a year, and
Mm.
then tragically died young. He was in his 40s,
Mm.
leaving a widow and 4 children. And she was determined to keep the swan boats open. But the business community in Boston in the 1880s was not supportive of women running a business. That was unheard of.
Mm.
She persevered for 30 years
Wow.
and got the signatures they required. Every requirement they gave her, she met their requirement and ran the swan boats. And her great granddaughter, let me see if I can find a picture of her. There she is over here on the left. Lynn Paget, Paget, same last name. She and her cousin Phil run the swan boats today. That was just one example, I think, of what was happening about the role of women that often we have no idea about. We just don't know of what's going on. So we were really happy to do that, and we now continue to commemorate Women's Equality Day every single year. We have one coming up this year, so stay tuned for that because we would love to have people come out at the swan boats near the swan boats where we do this event every year.
Terrific.
There is so much more. It's on our website. We did film events. In addition to Iron-Jawed Angels, there were many more. Suffragette, you may remember. Hidden Figures, you may remember. And these are all under our film events. And I'm just going to share this screen so that people can see how they could find these films if
Okay.
interested. So I'm on our website and I'm actually under resources, under films. If you go to resources, you go
Uh-huh.
scroll down, there are articles, biographies, marker trail. I want to talk about display panels, book lists, and films. And I'm going to scroll a little bit and you can see all these films that we recommend and that we have shown. Hidden Figures, Iron-Jawed Angels, etc.
Nice, nice.
Um, there's a lot of history, and I realize it's hard to get to it all. Oops. So let me stop sharing. But that's just a way to show folks how they can get to see those films. So we showed films. We did the yearly thing at the Swan Boats. We also created called display panels, and I'm going to share this screen so that people can. There's one behind me. You can see two actually, Ida B. Wells and Sojourner Truth. We made these with the Commonwealth Museum.
Mm.
Um, oops, I have the wrong thing up. I'm sorry. We made these with the Commonwealth Museum, and they are on our website. If there are people out there who have children in school, any ages, who need some resources, please do check these out.
Mm.
So I'm going to share this screen. This is under resources. These are display panels. You can see they're hard copy behind me, but they're also here all online.
Oh, fabulous.
So you can click on any one of these. Some of these names are likely to be familiar, some
Hmm.
are not. And they are thrilling. Blanche Ames. I'm going to open this one in the PDF so people can print these out.
Wonderful.
Have you ever heard of Blanche Ames? Most people have not.
I have not heard of her.
Unbelievable woman, a true Renaissance woman from Easton.
Mm.
Her home, which she designed, is now a part of the Park Service.
Wow.
And some of those watching may have seen the movie or heard of it called Knives Out.
Oh, sure, sure.
There's a scene in a library. That's her library
Oh,
that she created. What she also did, though, was this is a picture of the home called Borderland. She was an artist who drew these incredible drawings of orchids, and because her husband was a researcher, he was famous at Harvard. I think she drew all the pictures, but she also we have another panel about her for her cartoons. She was a suffragist
mm.
and drew these amazing cartoons. And there's a story from that same library that's in Knives Out. She was holding a meeting for suffragists to plan a huge march in Boston in 1915. And a snowstorm hit. She fully expected nobody would be able to arrive. And sure enough, These women crested the hill from outside her window. She could see them marching, trudging through the snow. They were determined to meet for women's suffrage. And that's when Massachusetts was trying to obtain the vote because the effort was state by state by state. And really, it was Iron Jawed Angels, that movie that depicts the story of when Alice Paul comes on the scene in 1913. I'm just talking about 1915, which was state by state. 1913 was introducing the idea more strongly for a constitutional amendment.
Mhm.
And let me note that huge effort in Massachusetts that Blanche Ames was so much a part of failed. They had hundreds of thousands of people at their parade, and a month after, it was defeated at the ballot box.
Mm.
So this idea of a federal constitutional amendment became more and more important. And we can see why with all these efforts. It failed in Massachusetts, it failed in New York, it failed in Connecticut, in several states all at once. So after 60 years of trying to get the vote, only a handful, I think it was 11, and most were in the West where women were getting the vote. So that enters the whole effort for the constitutional amendment to say this is not going to work. We need this countrywide. So our work was leading up to the 100th anniversary in 2020. We had a terrific event at Faneuil Hall. I'll stop sharing screens, but encourage people to go on our website. Just in the little question bar, you could put in Faneuil Hall. We had a huge event at Faneuil Hall to kick off our celebration, and then the pandemic.
Mm.
So we had reserved the Boston Common to have a huge march to replicate
Mm.
1915.
Ah,
And then the pandemic hit, we had to cancel.
ah, how
So,
disappointing. lemonade
lemonade out of lemons, we made a film under resources. You can see our film right at the top, Looking Back, Marching Forward, which is a 30-minute short film, but really good with a summary and a timeline about how women obtained the vote. So I encourage people take a moment to go see that. And now we get to the point of, so what happens to Suffrage 100 Massachusetts?
Okay, yes. What was important? What were the important factors, the collaborators that the partnerships that you developed to enter this new era that we're in now?
Thank you so much. So over those years, we had been inviting, and many organizations were joining us as partners, nonprofit organizations. And we had come up, we're at about 200, over 200
Mm.
nonprofit partners. And you're right, we consulted with them. We had some Zoom calls during the pandemic to say, we don't think we should close, but we want to check in with you all. And it was unanimous. Stay open. There's a foundation of women's suffrage, but let's expand it to all of Massachusetts women's history.
Mm.
And I will note, our focus is to be a public museum, if you will, a public center. We are blessed in Massachusetts with the Schlesinger Library, with Smith, with Wellesley, with all these spectacular, Mount Holyoke, all these great women's colleges and universities that have fabulous resources. Our aim is to get out this information to the general public. Um, and one story I think that highlights what, kind of the who knew piece in 2017,
Uh-huh.
January, very cold, just after a certain presidential election of 1916, where many women were mobilized and upset. There was the Women's March around the country and the world, and we had one in Boston. There were 175,000 people,
Wow.
January 2017. Now, I'm glad you're sitting down because in 1915, when I talked about
Hmm.
Blanche Ames organizing for this march, and she wasn't alone, there were many, many, many. In 1915, they had a parade in Boston to encourage the men, because only the men were voting or could vote, to vote for women's suffrage in Massachusetts. And they had a parade and march in Boston with 500,000 people.
Whoa, that's incredible. I'm glad I am sitting. Wow.
Right? No cell phones, no internet. People showed up, and yes, there were antis in the crowd. There were no doubt about it. There were antis, but 1 month later, it was defeated at the ballot box.
Wow.
Crushing for those
Uh,
women, right?
for
And,
sure. For
and the
sure.
men who voted for it. So that's the kind of history that nobody knows. And our aim is to share that as well as more broadly all of Massachusetts women's history. So we decided to stay open, become the Massachusetts Women's History Center. We're using that word. It could be museum. We're using center because we hope to be a little bit broader than just a museum, although museums today are more broad as well,
Mhm.
to incorporate arts and culture and so forth. And we're currently virtual, the Massachusetts Women's History Center. So please, folks, uh, do search it out on your Google search to mawomenshistory.org.
How do you decide which women or which stories that are featured in the center?
Thank you for asking that. It's a great question. And a part of the answer also has to do with our social media because we are active on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Blue Sky.
Hmm.
We're not on Twitter any longer, but Blue Sky. And we post regularly, a few times a week, 2 or 3 times a week. And as we're doing that, we do research about women. Maybe it's their birthday, maybe it's something that happened. So that's one thing that drives that. Another is our work with our partners, because we have many partner organizations and we work with the Massachusetts Women of Color Coalition. We work with the Greater Boston section of the National Council of Negro Women,
Hmm.
um, and the League of Women Voters and the Girl Scouts, and it goes on and on. And so many times those organizations have people that we like to highlight about their founders or who started their organizations. So we have historians and scholars,
Hmm.
and those who write our pieces. So often it's a group effort where we talk about who should we include. So for instance, this month is AAPI month, right? Asian
Hmm.
and Pacific
Mhm.
Islanders. And so on our website, people will see Carolyn Chang,
Mhm.
a spectacular woman from Boston who we're honored to highlight.
Terrific, terrific. There is so much more we're going to be covering in a follow-up program, but I know we are interested to end with part of a video clip. Would you please introduce that clip and then we'll watch a bit and close for today?
Thank you so much. All right, let me pull that up. Give me 1 second. Um, there we go. So as I'm searching for this, I think I might be able to share some history at the same time.
Please.
Thank you. This has two things. This film has two things. One is the purpose of it was to summarize in film um, the 14 plus years or so of the Suffrage 100 Massachusetts and all the various things that we had done. So that was an honor to put that together. And then we had the question hmm, of um, of music in the background. And it turns out there's a wonderful woman who lives on the North Shore, Laura Harrington, who wrote a musical also hit by the pandemic called The Perfect 36 about Tennessee, because that was the last state that
Mm.
ratified, with a
Hmm.
great story there. And she wrote a song that is a song of the time as if it were 1920, telling the men why they should support women getting the vote. So that is the background song to this video where we show the different kinds of work we've done over the past several years. So I'll share that now. Is that good?
Please, please, let's watch a little bit and then we'll wrap up for today.
Sounds good. And you can give me the high sign when you think it's. So this is the film. This is the page if people want to find it online. It's Suffrage 100 MA hosts first ever gala. So in this question mark here, if you just search gala, this will come up,
Yeah.
GALA. Scroll down, and here's the film.
A woman's voice welcomed you into the world. A woman's voice sang you to sleep. A woman's voice guided your growing, gave you glowing memories to keep. A woman's voice has held your secrets. A woman's voice has shared her own. A woman's voice gave you a start, captured your heart when you were alone. Do you now seek to break these bonds? Do you seek to betray this trust? Do you now seek to still this voice which shaped your world? A woman's voice raised your children. A woman's voice taught them at home. A woman's voice guided their growing, always knowing children will roam. A woman.
I think we're going to wind it right now for today's purpose. And as we wrap up in the minute or two left, and again, we'll be following up with much more in the second program. But since you introduced us so nicely to the website, gave us a sense of what's on there, just a very quick review of some of the key features of the website and how viewers can access it, and then we'll close for today.
Thank you so much. The website is filled with exhibits. On the front page, you'll scroll down. We have the latest at the top. I was pleased to be interviewed by Jim and Marjorie recently. That's on there, along with my colleague Celia Blue from the Massachusetts Women of Color Coalition. And you can go down exhibits, articles, biographies. All of those are on the website. You can find exhibits listed, and then under resources, you'll get the many other things. There is a place to sign up on the homepage if you scroll down for our emails. I promise we do not send many, but because I know we all, our inboxes are all overflowing. We send maybe a couple a month or less, but please do sign up because when we have events or activities happening, we announce them. And I do want to mention, and I look forward to talking about it our next talk, the other thing we created with the Massachusetts History Center is the Massachusetts Women's Hall of Fame. We don't have one. And so we are going to be having announcements about that. If you sign up for our emails and or follow us on social media, mawomenshistory.org, you can learn about all those things coming up.
Fabulous, fabulous. Well, unfortunately, Freddie, we've come to the end of today's program. Much more to follow in programming to come. But thank you again for taking the time to be here, for providing the wonderful overview for the center and all the information we can look forward to accessing through the website. Look forward to our next conversation at a future date. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. I'm very honored to have been with you today. Thank you.
Also want to thank those of you watching for joining us and hope you'll be able to tune in next time.